Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and Wargaming have finally told us why they're nerfing the Progetto 65, and I'm going to be discussing it in today's video. They announced this on the homepage of World of Tanks in a rebalancing changes in update 1.20 that will be arriving today on the NA server and tomorrow on the European server. So firstly, let me give a massive thumbs up to Wargaming for buffing and nerfing tanks inside the game. And also let me clarify that I agree with all of the buffs and nerfs apart from one, but I want to discuss it as a matter of importance, as Wargaming seem to have really missed out with the Progetto 65, which I know is a tank that is really in the hearts of the community. And also, if other vehicles were nerfed in such a way because of the reasoning that Wargaming gave, then it would be a real bad thing for World of Tanks. Next, I further want to praise Wargaming for actually justifying why they have buffed and nerfed all of these vehicles. I really like when companies describe why they are doing things rather than just telling us what they are doing. Riot Games, for example, does a fantastic job of this with League of Legends, even going as far as to having videos dedicated to the buffs and nerfs of their champions. And I really hope that Wargaming keep this up in the future for transparency and also to give us the full picture. With that said and done, now I want to jump into my critique of Wargaming's nerf of the Progetto 65. They are putting it in a section of overperforming high-tiered vehicles, carefully measured changes. So, the reason why Wargaming is nerfing the Progetto is as follows. We understand why the community was so emotional about the performance of the nerf of the Progetto 65. This vehicle is very popular and players like it. So you ask why to reduce its effectiveness, since its percentage of wins is about 49%, which is not a high value. But in this case, we pay attention to two other very important parameters. Firstly, the Progetto 65 is the most popular tier 10 medium tank in the game over the last 6 months, and its popularity continues to grow. Yes, that's right, ladies and gents, boys and girls. Wargaming are nerfing the Progetto 65 because apparently it is too popular. Now, this completely baffles me, because why are you nerfing vehicles based on their popularity if nobody thinks that they're toxic to play with or play against inside the matchmaker? I don't know about you, but I have not seen a single person complain about a Progetto inside World of Tanks. Not when they have to deal with them on the enemy team, and not when they have a couple on their team. Next, I went and dug around a little bit as to why the Progetto 65 might have been so popular in the last 6 months. And let me clarify, 6 months will be February, January, December, November, October, and September. And who would have guessed it that from September the 8th through to November the 30th in Battle Pass Season 9, the Progetto was featured as one of the core tanks. What this meant is that not only could players get a brand new style for it, it was more than that. As a core vehicle, the Progetto 65 was actually earning you extra points in the Battle Pass for 3 of the last 6 months. So no wonder people were grinding the Progetto 65 so much, because it was the fastest way to be able to get through the Battle Pass if you were able to achieve the Progetto's objectives of finishing towards the top of your team. If that wasn't enough, for the entire month of October through to November, which was during that Battle Pass where the Progetto was featured, the Progetto 65 was one of the top of the tree or the on-track tanks. Meaning that not only could you accelerate your way up the tech tree with getting lots of experience for dealing damage, getting an extra 5 times experience game of the day, or an additional 5 times experience the game if you purchase the premium top of the tree content, on top of the fact that the standard B and the Progetto were 30% off, which is the best ever time to play and grind your Italian medium tanks, especially to be able to get field mods, which I know a lot of players are doing, is waiting for a tank to be top of the tree and then getting your field mods on the vehicle during the month that it is. So this means that, of course, the Progetto 65 would have been played an incredible amount for the month of October, and also for the entire 3 months at the end of the Season 9 Battle Pass, which is within this 6-month period that Wargaming are talking about with the Progetto's popularity. Accordingly, I really hope that Wargaming have taken this into account, that if they artificially increase the popularity of a vehicle because they include it in a battle pass and they make it top of the tree, that then if they decide to nerf a tank because of its popularity, then they might be the problem. So now, while I can only talk about the unofficial stats that are available on awesome websites like Tomato GG, let's take a look at what the Progetto's popularity has been in the last couple of months. There have been, on the European server, 4.1 million battles played in the Progetto, making it the second most popular tier 10 medium tank. However, the Leopard 1 is 15% more popular than the Progetto 65, but Wargaming aren't touching the German medium tank. This gets even more ridiculous because if we look on the North American server, the Leopard 1 is over twice as popular in the last couple of months as the Progetto 65, and the STB1 and the TVP are practically neck and neck with regards to the amount of games played. And this is something that's mirrored on the European server as well, with the TVP having still 3/4 of the games of a tank that Wargaming deem is becoming too popular inside the game, with the STB1 just behind on that. So immediately you've got to ask yourself, Wargaming, why are you nerfing the Progetto 65 if in theory the Leopard 1 is actually the problem with regards to popularity? Have you made a mistake here by not taking into account that you artificially inflated the Progetto's popularity by making it both top of the tree and also one of the prominent features of your last battle pass? But really, there is also a gigantic elephant in the room, or shall I say there's a gigantic lion in the room, and that is Wargaming. If you were truly worried about the Progetto 65 being too popular and therefore having a negative impact on the game, why did you sell a lion in an assembly shop, which is now the 5th most played vehicle in the last 2 months? And if I change it to the last 30 days, where the lion has actually been available, then we'll quickly see that the lion is actually the 3rd most popular tank, and it's nearly had as many games played as the Progetto 65. And while it is a reward vehicle, and you'd think that the better players were playing it, if we take a look at the lion's win ratio, it is a healthy 1.5% above the Progetto 65 over the last 30 days. And in my opinion, you'd be crazy to want to play a Progetto with the nerfs instead of just playing your lion. So it's definitely a contradictory statement here. You're nerfing the tech tree tank, but you're putting in like 60,000 vehicles onto the European server for all of the whales with the biggest amount of currency to play a vehicle which, to all intents and purposes, is untouchable and unnerfable and more overpowered than a Progetto 65 because it is a reward vehicle. And their second reason for nerfing the Progetto 65 is apparently the vehicle is in top 3 in terms of average damage per battle amongst all tier 10 medium tanks. Now again, I can only go on these unofficial statistics, but if we take a look in the last 2 months with regards to what medium tanks are on top of damage, of course it's going to be the CS63, the Leopard 1, the UDES, the STB1, the TVP, and then the Progetto 65, which is actually in 5th place. Now let me clarify that I do not think that basing a nerf on damage alone is justified. Some tanks naturally do more damage than others, but they don't have the other aspects. Maybe they don't have the scouting, maybe they don't have the armor to be able to make up to have a big impact inside the battle. And this is why the Progetto, with regards to its win rate, is pretty much perfect as it is right now in the last couple of months, being right in the middle of the pack, with over half of the tier 10 medium tanks more influential at winning the battle than the Progetto. Remember, an Italian auto-reloading medium tank is naturally going to get useless damage at the end of a battle, which will inflate its damage statistics. It's an auto-loader. It can dump out that magazine. It can do that, 1,440 damage at the end to that zombie that's rushing towards it. Buffing and nerfing tanks based purely on their damage without also taking into account when they are actually dealing that damage and whether it's effective inside the battle is a terrible idea, at least in my humble opinion. To show you why this is the case with Wargaming's reasoning, for example, let's take a look at the mouse. In the last 60 days on the European server, the mouse actually has the 5th best win rate of any of the tier 10 heavy tanks. In fact, it's more competitive than tanks like the 60TP, the IS-4, and it's only a tiny little bit on win ratio below something like the VZ55. However, if we were to go and take a look at the damage per game, the mouse is actually 5th from the bottom. Now, why would you think the mouse, which is doing terrible damage relative to all of the other heavy tanks would actually be towards the top on win rate. That's because it's the most well armored. It doesn't need to do damage because it's blocking damage, it's using its hit points, it's enabling its team to make plays. That is what makes up for the mouse's lack of damage. Now we can find a good example of this when it comes to medium tanks as well. Look at the Object 430U. It's towards the upper half of win ratio for any of the tier 10 medium tanks. I personally think it's a resident sleeper OP vehicle, and I'm not surprised that it is getting the 7th best win ratio of any of the tier 10 mediums. However, we would look at the 430U with regards to its average damage. It's actually 7th from bottom. Sorry, 6th from bottom. And that is because the 430U is not being influential because it has the worst gun. It's being influential because it has the best armor. And it's of vital importance that Wargaming consider this, because they hold all of the keys to all of your hard grinded tanks. And while, once again, I'd like to clarify, with the buffs and the nerfs of the 120 update, I think they've done a really good job. With the Progetto, they've really missed the ball, and if I might be so bold, have come out with some terrible reasoning for justifying a nerf. And this really scares me in the future if Wargaming base their decision making on, in my opinion, flawed reasoning, get pressured by the community, and then they double down by, frankly, releasing even more flawed justifications. Wargaming, please don't nerf vehicles that are not becoming toxic within the community. Please nerf the vehicles which are. By your very reasoning, you should be nerfing the CS63. And from your reasoning, the Leopard has better average damage than the Progetto 65. It is more popular than the Progetto 65, and it has a better win ratio than the Progetto 65. And look, community, I don't want the Leopard to be nerfed. I have absolutely no problem with it. I think it's fine. I think it's not destroying the game. It's tanks like the Chieftain, the Object 2790, the AMX M454. Those vehicles are destroying the game at the moment. But all I'm suggesting is that if Wargaming come up with such random reasons, at least in my opinion, which are not based on statistics recently, for nerfing some of your favorite tanks, then anything could be nerfed, irrelevant of whether it's actually toxic inside the game. So Wargaming, while I really appreciate that you've tried to justify your reasoning for nerfing the Progetto, I really hope that you're taking it into account that if you increase the popularity of a vehicle by featuring it in a battle pass and making it top of the tree, and then use that as a justification for nerfing a vehicle that frankly is not performing very well within any regard, both damage and also its win ratio, at least with the statistics that the community can see over the last 2 months, then it's clear that the community are justified with their outrage and should be very concerned about your nerfing procedure in the future. I, for one, personally think you've really missed the ball on the Progetto 65, and this justification is just so incredibly flawed that it's almost more insulting than if you hadn't told us anything at all, because it really makes me concerned for what you might be nerfing in the future. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that's it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video and you liked this breakdown. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments whether I've made any mistakes, whether am I being an idiot here? Or is it really the case that Wargaming have made a vehicle popular in the last 6 months and now they're nerfing it even though it's got no problem inside the game? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.